Welcome to Two Tall Guys Talking Sales. I'm your host for this session. I'm Sean.
And I'm Kevin.
And together we're going to talk about a unique problem that you might be having in your sales process and your sales world. This 15 minutes is designed for salespeople, sales managers, and CEOs of the company that are trying to increase their revenue and trying to be more productive in your sales processes. So let's get started.
Marc was able to stay and do another episode with us. And Marc, thank you much for coming back and helping us and talking about this issue. We only talked about one of the three scenarios that you laid out last week. So last week when we talked about selling a company, you started off by saying something to the effect of selling the company through a business broker to somebody on the outside, somebody that's not associated with the company today. You also talked about selling the company or transitioning the company to a family member, maybe a son or daughter, maybe a brother, whatever. And the owner leaves and now we're transitioning it to another person that's in the family, probably knows a little bit about the business because maybe they grew up in the business. But the third one you talked about was selling the company to an ESOP or selling it to the employees of the company and what that might mean. So let's dig into that last one because I think that one's an interesting spin. So essentially, I'll set the stage, then we'll talk about the sales stuff. The owner is going to work with a lawyer, work with a set of accountants. They're going to value the company, and the employees are going to be set up that over time, those people are going to transition and they're going to kind of take over the company. And the original owner, maybe the founder, may still be there to run the company for a while, but maybe that's a short-term thing as well. So that's all part of however they want to set up that ownership stake. So Marc, tell us about your experience in that and tell us about the challenges in sales in that situation. Maybe before, maybe after. We'll let you go where you want to go on that conversation.
Yeah, thanks. Great to be back. So this one actually happened last year to two good friends of mine. A friend that I hunt and fish with some, he owns the company with two other partners. It's a construction company, probably $40, $50 million, big company. Has two other partners. And what happened was they decided they were going to transition out. They couldn't come up with a family plan or they didn't really want to sell it outright. They had some loyalty to their employees. So we always have to remember, no matter what we're doing in business, there's people involved and people have egos and they have mindsets. Well, the issue that became really relevant and prevalent here were they didn't know what kind of management structure they wanted to put in place. They were actually going to put people in positions in the company where they had no experience or capabilities. I hate to say it, they almost needed to go through EOS because they needed to put the right butts in the right seats and they didn't know how to do it. And that was not going to be a good thing if they did this because these people, you got to remember, if you get into a club or something, and you put a board of directors together and you look at the people that are coming into this board of directors who are going to manage money and do all of these things, have they ever done that before? Do they have the capability? And that's what was happening in this company. Oh, they're a good person. They're a good guy, a good gal. I think they can do it. Do you really think they can do it? What's their experience? What have they done in the past along that exact function? They still did a little bit of it, but it wasn't quite as bad. And then what they did, and another thing that happened here, was they got very, very, very corporate, big corporate. They put so many systems and so many processes in place, which I understand, but it became almost overnight, it felt like a stodgy, massive corporation where you couldn't make a decision or get anything done. My other friend, and these two were college roommates, he left the company. He said, I can't work in this environment. They overdid it. So you got to be really careful. And whenever I start with a new client, I'm like, look, I'm not going to come in and just start making changes. That would be the worst thing in the world that I can do. Let's learn, let's process, and let's kind of do some baby steps and kind of figure this thing out. Because the ESOP program, like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. This is a 5 or an 8-year deal, I think, because the owners are young. I mean, they're 60 years old. I consider I'm young because of me. I'm 60. But that's what you got to think about. And that was the big, slap in the face, if you will, that they got. It's like, we put a bunch of people in positions where they're really not qualified to be in those positions.
It's interesting that we talk about helping people avoid landmines. So Sean and I use a lot of our past experience to talk about where we skinned our knees so that others don't have to. what were some of the ownerships, like when they self-evaluated, a year out from this, what were some of their learnings where they said, hey, I could have done this differently and it would have gotten a better outcome? Because to your point, people are at the end of the transaction.
I think they could have slowed down. They could have evaluated. They probably should have put the people that they were going to put in some of these positions through a hiring process to look at their experience levels and things, and just treated it like, yeah, you're a secretary now. We're going to make you VP of operations. That's a little extreme, but there was almost some of that going on. Have you ever managed a project? I'm talking, these guys build Amazon warehouses and that kind of stuff, big stuff. Well, have you ever managed a project of that size? Have you ever managed a project at all? And just so the hiring process. So and I talked to the owner about that when he goes, yeah, we should have really slowed down. We thought we had it figured out, but that transition was really, really rocky and rough. And we probably lost more people than we wanted to because of that. And that's just, it's a lesson learned. Slow down, treat them like you're going to hire them for that position, because that's really what you're doing. I mean, yeah, it's a promotion, but you got to make sure they have the capabilities. The GWC, get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it.
I love that you made that EOS reference there, because I think that does help companies in that situation. I don't want to make this a big sales pitch on EOS on this podcast, but it does help with that problem. And that GWC that you just talked about, that's right out of Traction. So if listeners don't understand that, go buy Traction by Gino Wickman. Read that book. It's got some really good insights, and GWC is one of those things. And How to Be a Boss, or How to Be a Great Boss, whatever that book is that he also wrote, kind of really builds into that as well. Because one of the things that I have seen in most small companies, and not all, but most, is that the person that is running something, running that department, running the manufacturing department, running the project management department, whatever, they probably did not do that job at a bigger company somewhere else. They may have worked for a bigger company, but they weren't the director or the VP. They weren't in charge of that operation. Now they're working for the smaller company, and they haven't been in that bigger organization. They don't know how to scale from a $50 million company, I think is what you said in this example. They didn't work for a $500 million company doing that same job. So they don't know how to get from 50 to 100 to 150 to 500 million. And the been there, done that, bought the t-shirt is a big deal. Part of the reason why companies hire people like the three of us is they know that we've been there, we've done that, we bought the t-shirt. In fact, we have the skin knees to prove it. Let's fast forward, and you may not have a direct example on this one, but now the company is being run by the employees. Maybe the owner is still involved, but he definitely isn't the king anymore. He's got a president that's doing a lot of the operations. And you've been asked to jumpstart that sales organization because maybe they got a little stagnant. They were so worried about all their other stuff trying to get done that they took their eye off the ball on finding customers. So how do you help a company like that? How do you kickstart that sales organization?
The old Stephen Covey 7 Habits thing, start with the end in mind. So you would sit down, I would sit down with the new owners. Where are we taking this company? 1, 3, 5, 10 years, whatever it is. Where are we going? How are we going to get there? Are we going to stay in these areas? Are we going to try new areas? Oh, you build warehouses and you're wanting to build apartment complexes. Okay, I don't know. I'm just using that as an example. So where are we going? What are the markets? How are we going to serve them? Do we have the capacity to do that? Are you going to be able to scale? One thing that I'm sure you guys do too, if you talk to an owner, it's like, if we sell it, can you build it? Can you deliver it? Because I've had that happen where it doesn't work, and boy, oh boy, is that not fun, right? But make sure that they're going to scale everything, not just sales, to get there. Do you have the team in place? What are their capabilities? Do they have the experience? Do we have processes? I mean, it's back to our stuff that we do with every client, right? Our infrastructure. Is it going to support the sales process and the team the way it needs to be supported to give you the information as well, but to give you guys everything you need to go out and deliver to these customers, because it's all about the customer. It's not about the company. And that's a transition you got to get some of them to do. But that's the biggest challenge, really, is just making sure the whole infrastructure is there. I always say, hey, if we're going to hire 5 more salespeople, let's do it slowly over time and have the next hire pay for the hire after that, right? Once this person's paying their own way, giving you some profit, all right, now it's time for the next one. Unless there's just some kind of a huge market opportunity that just pops out, we see it, okay, then you can do it a little bit different, but that doesn't happen very often.
I'm a big believer in 3 salespeople become 4, 4 become 5, 5 becomes 6. And you use that existing run rate that you got from the first 3, first 4, first 5 to pay for that next one. And you grow profitably by doing that.
At the end of the bat here, you've highlighted a few things that I thought are just really impactful for our audience. The need to have processes, the need to know when to go fast versus when to go slow, and treating everybody, even if it's a promotion, like it's a net new hire, right? Vetting the process, because when the 3 of us and our peers, when we work with a business that is trying to get ready to be sold, we judge ourselves on our intentions, but others judge us on actions. So the same goes for the business owner getting ready to sell. They're being judged based on what outsiders can see inside the business. It's a wonderful play on how to build a business. I think you said it in the last podcast, building to be sold, built to sell. I think it's a great mantra. Can somebody outside the business see the value inside of our business? Marc, a couple things here. We're about to get towards our 15 minutes here. I want to make sure we leave time to make sure people know how to get in touch with you. But any parting thoughts on how to get a business ready to be sold?
Go slow. I'll tell you one thing is, if the owner can do it 3 to 5 years before they're actually ready to sell, it's going to provide dividends to them, and they're going to have a better multiple, more money in their pocket, because they're going to look at that and say, here are the things that I need to build on and fix before I sell. So often, because I have several business broker friends, so often they say, oh, they're ready to sell, and they're going to sell it next week for $12 million. We valued it's $2 million. And the mom and dad are sitting there like, holy crap, we can't retire. We can't sell. We're done, because they didn't think about it. You can't just snap your fingers and say, it's time to go. So be a little bit of preparedness, whatever you want to call that. But just the more out front you can get in front of it, the better off you're going to be. That's the main thing.
Absolutely. When you sell your house, before you sell your house, you probably walked through the house and said, we haven't painted this room in 15 years. Maybe it needs a new coat of paint, or maybe we should at least wash the walls. Let's get the dog hair off the floor, look under the carpets and make sure all that's working well. Let's spruce it up, maybe change out some plants out front, help our curb appeal. Got to do the same thing for a company. It's just a little harder. It's bigger, it's more complicated, and it's got to be a profitable show, because now it's not just about curb appeal. Now it's about, are you making money? Because that's the kind of company I want to buy. Nobody wants to buy a company that's losing money. So make sure you're making money. Being profitable is really important. So Marc, we only have about 90 seconds left in our 15 minutes here. So we do want to give you a shout out. Tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about your company. How do we get a hold of you? We'll put your LinkedIn comments, or we'll put your email if you want in the show notes. So please, whatever makes sense for people to get a hold of you.
I've been doing this for 7 years. I've been in sales management for 35 years, which is crazy. I'm an electrical engineer out of school. Used to automate factories, went into sales. Crazy backstory. You can get a hold of me. My cell number, 618-600-4647. It's just www.optimussales, just like it sounds, OPTIMUSSALES.com. And my email is mmetz@optimussales.com.
And we'll put your LinkedIn as well on the show notes. I'll put the show notes there for people to reach out on LinkedIn, because I know you're out there on LinkedIn as well, so I appreciate that. So fantastic. And you're based in Greater St. Louis, correct?
In St. Louis, correct.
So anybody in the St. Louis area, the Southern Illinois area, please reach out to Marc, and he can help you sell your company, get it ready to go, or just run your company more efficiently. So thank you very much for your time, Marc.
Thanks.
And that's a wrap. Thanks again for joining Kevin and Sean on Two Tall Guys Talking Sales. Tune in every Tuesday, or when our podcast drops every Tuesday at 4:30, wherever you consume your podcast. And don't miss our monthly CEO workshop, where we unpack some of the big CEO questions facing your business. Until next time, we're looking forward to seeing you. Happy selling.